China's sixth-generation fighter jet makes its first flight. How does it compare to the F-35 and the F-22? And is it a real sixth-generation fighter, or just another fifth-generation fighter like the J-20? We'll find out in this episode. Breaking news, everyone! China has reportedly made the first flight of its sixth-generation fighter jet. The new aircraft is called the J-35, which is not to be confused with the J-31, which is China's fifth-generation fighter jet, or the J-20. Yes, Chinese military aviation uses the letter J to denote their fighter jets, which can be really confusing for us Westerners. But to make things even more confusing, they skipped from J-20 to J-35, leaving out the J-21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. What gives? Well, apparently the J-21 was a sixth-generation fighter concept that was proposed but never built, and all the subsequent numbers were taken by other projects, some of which were unmanned. So technically speaking, this new fighter jet is China's second sixth-generation fighter. But since the first one was never built, this new aircraft could be considered China's first actual sixth-generation fighter. Does that make sense? Yes, it does to me. What do we know about this new fighter? Well, not much is known about it except that it will have the following capabilities. First, it will be stealth, very stealth. In fact, it will be the most stealth fighter in the world with an estimated RCS of less than 0.1 square meters. For comparison, the F-35 has an RCS of 0.0001 square meters. Second, it will have an integrated AI system that will allow it to operate with or without a human pilot. In other words, it will be a manned or optionally manned fighter. And third, it will be able to carry conventional and nuclear weapons, as well as drones. Some reports also say that it will be able to carry a hypersonic missile, which would make it the first sixth-generation fighter with such a capability. So when will this new fighter enter service? According to some reports, it will be ready by 2028. However, considering that China has made a lot of progress in recent years with their new fighter program, I would say that it might enter service as early as 2025. At that point, China will have the most advanced fighter jets in the world, surpassing even the F-35 and the F-22. As a matter of fact, the only fighter jets that might remain relevant at that point are the F-31 and the F-22. But wait a minute. Isn't the F-35 the most advanced fighter jet in the world right now? Well, yes, it is. But the F-31 is being developed to be the most advanced fighter in the world. It will feature a new engine that will allow it to supercruise at Mach 1.3 as well as vertical takeoff and landing. It will also have a very high RCS and it will be optionally manned. In other words, it will have all the features that define a sixth-generation fighter, and since it is being developed by Lockheed Martin's legendary Skunk Works, I'm sure it will be a huge success. The F-22, on the other hand, is not a very good example of a sixth-generation fighter because it lacks some of the key features that define a sixth-generation fighter, namely supercruising and vertical takeoff and landing. Plus, it's not stealth. Therefore, I believe that the only fighters that can be considered sixth-generation fighters today are the F-35 and the F-22. Once the F-31 enters service, these two will be joined by the F-119 and possibly some other fighters. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.